What's up, everybody? So yeah, this is my fifth video I'm posting of learning Eurorack, and I recently got a new module here called the Data Bender right here from Qu-Bit. A good friend of mine, Nathan Matthew David, he suggested this one to me as one that could enable you to do glitching. So, as I normally do when I get a module, I just hook it up and try to create something using that module. So this is a patch that I created, a real uh, simple patch, but for me it served two purposes. One, to kind of take the data bender for a test drive, and two, to kind of do an experiment with randomization. So I'm kind of going to break down how I have this patch set up, and then I'm going to kind of show you what I did with the patch after I created it. So uh, what I started with was I took a sound out of plots here, and that was kind of going to be the sound that I use, and then do just some use data bender to uh, do some random things um, while this sound from plots is playing. So for this, what I'm doing a couple of things here. So um, I have um, an LFO coming out of Pamela's new workout that's just doing some modulation of the morph parameter, to just kind of keep that sound changing. Um, and then I'm taking plots out here, and basically what I'm doing with this is I'm basically just kind of creating a pulse with with that sound. So I basically am using another LFO. Um, the sound from plots is basically coming out of plots and going into this VCA, and then there's just an LFO here that's just creating a pulse with that sound from plots. So that's kind of the starting point. So from there, I'm you can't I got too many cables here, so it's hard to see what's going on. But from there, what I'm doing is I'm coming out of this VCA, and um, and then I'm coming into a multiple here, because I want to split. I want to take that uh, monophonic sound that's coming out of plots, and I want to basically split it into four, basically four copies of that sound. So with uh, with the first two copies, I'm basically going through QPass here, and I'm just doing a high pass filter, um, and that's coming out of QPass into this mixer. And what I'm doing here is um, I'm doing some uh, uh, out of Pamela's new workout here. Um, I have another. Sorry, going here. Yeah, some sine wave um, that's pretty slow, and it's modulating the radiate parameter. When I modulate when I plug into this input here, and as long as I don't have anything plugged in to the right one, this will modulate both the left and the right. So um, so that just kind of gives me, a little bit of that, along with the modulation of this morph parameter on plots, that just makes that sound out of plots just kind of change and evolve and not stay the same. So then I'm taking two other copies of that sound and I'm routing them into Data Bender. And I have the mix all the way up because I'm just going to use the mix out of here, the effects that are happening with Data Bender. That's all I'm going to use out of here. Then I'm going to mix them in with the modified with everything I'm doing with the sound that's coming out of plots. I'm going to mix that in, mix that together myself. So so I have a few things going on here. So first of all, there's a sequence here, and let me have this place. You can kind of see this going here. So this is just triggering some gates. So I have three different gates that are being triggered. One that's just being triggered right at the start. It's a 16-step sequence. Then I have another one that's being triggered right in the middle, and then two other gates that are being triggered kind of, here and here. So here's where I'm getting into some of the randomization. So this first gate is uh, is set so that it'll randomly about, I think it's about 60, what is it, 62, 63% of the time it'll fire that gate. So sometimes it won't. And then uh, with this one here, this is uh, let's see, what is this set to? 75%. Okay. Yeah. So again, this one will, has a 75% probability that it'll trigger this gate, but sometimes it won't. Um, these other ones are set to trigger all the time, and they're gonna trigger and open this gate basically for this length of these three uh, squares here, and then the length of these three squares. And I'll explain that one in a minute. So the gate in track one and this last track here, what they're doing is they're going over the maths, and they're just basically, in essence, doing an attack decay envelope. So whenever they trigger, they just kind of, there's a rise and there's a fall, and those are going into the data bender. One of them is going into the break, and the other one is going into the corrupt setting. And so, by the way, there's two modes that you can run Data Bender in, um, my, macro and micro. Macro, you kind of let Data Bender do all of um, uh, the bending and breaking and corrupting, um, and then micro, you take more control over how it's going to do those things. So I have it in macro mode right now. Um, so so whenever these gates, this top gate and this bottom gate, whenever they fire, it's going to uh, open up the breaking and the break and the corrupt. Using and basically an envelope that's uh, that's set up in maths. Now this other one, I basically really wanted to do the same thing for bend here, but I ran out of attack decay type envelopes, and that's kind of really what I wanted to use. So I just decided just to do something different. So basically, what I have here is I have a sample and hold, and so I have my clock kind of coming into the this thing here, and I'm sampling from a noise waveform, and that is basically going into uh, the second input on this VCA. So what happens is, so it's always sampling, the noise waveform, but only when this gate fires does it actually then allow that sample and hold to really make its way over to the data bender. So this, you'll see here, this opens up, and it does it all the time. So every time it gets to these this part of the sequence, this gate, this VCA basically will open, and um, and then whatever uh, the sample and hold, whatever CV uh, level that is has been sampled, it will then uh, uh, trigger the bending. It'll affect it'll modulate the bending. So sometimes it's sampled at a negative CV level, and then nothing happens here. But if it's at a positive level, then it'll affect the bend here. And I actually boosted it here. Still trying to figure out how I could constrain uh, the sample and hold to sample within like uh, 0 to 5 volts. That's something I'm still haven't figured out yet. Again, this is me learning, so I'm sure I'll figure that out at some point. So I just kind of let it just randomly, sample uh, from the noise waveform, and then whenever this gate triggers, it opens up this VCA, and it'll uh, modulate the bend. So with all three of these together, we're doing modulation of bending, breaking, and corrupt. And then I'm taking that out of the data bender into the mixer. So then at this point, I have the original sound from plots that went through the filter, um, and is kind of pulsating, and then I have the the data bending sounds, and they're coming into this mixer, and then I'm mixing them together, and uh, and then we're coming out of basically the top part of this mixer is I'm using as the left side, and the bottom two I'm using as the right side. So those basically are are going into the third and fourth inputs on this VCA. And so as I'm holding down a note, that opens up this VCA, and you get the sound going out to my output module, ultimately into my DAW. So that's basically how I have this patched together. So then I'm going to kind of transition over to my computer, and I'll show you what I've done with this sound now that it's created. All right. I did another video just kind of showing how, for some of the patches I put together in my Eurorack, how I preserve them by creating a contact instrument so I can use them later. So that's what I decided to do with this one. So I created an instrument. I called it Alien. Let me open that up here. So so this is Alien. Let me just play. Yeah. And it is a tempo synced instrument. So, I can come in here and change the tempo. Yeah. So, one of the things that I wanted to do when I create a tempo sync instrument is be able to, have it play at the tempo, or have it play at half the tempo, or twice the tempo. So I added to the script that I created this tempo button here. I'm not using a custom knob for that just yet. I just kind of wanted to get the functionality right. So basically, let's say my tempo is 60. So I'll play it here at 60. Right? So I can turn around and change it to twice the tempo. So then when I play it, or let me do a faster tempo. So I'm gonna do, I don't know, 140. So change this back to one at the exact tempo. So this is it playing at 140. So then I could, let's say I wanted to play at half the tempo. Then I'd set this to half, and yeah, so that's basically my instrument. I can play it. I basically just did it like a 2 octave range. So uh, yeah, so that's basically it. If you're interested in how I, get more in-depth information on how I set up this instrument, you can watch my other video on that topic, and I'll provide the link in the description. So yeah, that's all I have today.